Durut salam, как вы поживаете? Мне очень хорошо, ну хорошо. So this is a fight preview of Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. Okay, so what are my first thoughts? My very first thought is Islam Makhachev being from Dagestan, Republic of the Russian Federation, if that is the legal term now, um, for the state of Dagestan. Um, he has handled bigger, taller people throwing vicious strikes at him. He did that before he learned any of the wrestling, learned any of the combat sambo, became a master sport of anything. He learned how to defend against strikes, um, and powerful strikes. So up in the Caucasus Mountains, there are phenomenal boxers, world class strikers, guys that have a world class hook, and maybe they have a hiccup or a yip in their footwork, and that's why they're not like on the global stage. But that kind of striking art, sweet science exists up there at a high rate. You know, if you're in Chechnya, Dagestan, Armenia, Gruzia, wherever, you're gonna the likelihood of the guy trying to fight you having a world class something is pretty high. Whether that's a world class low kick, but he's he's not as good going to his right as he is his left, and that's why he's not a world class athlete or a world class fighter, so on and so forth. Dan Hooker can throw bombs. He could throw bombs. Whether he's a one hitter quitter or if he's just a knockout. Again, a one hitter quitter is someone like Justin Gagey, where they cannot do anything all fight and hit you one time and they can knock you out, versus like Tony Ferguson, who can knock you out, but it's going to be the accumulation of everything that he's done. So Islam Makhachev is not a knockout artist. If he's going to knock you out, it's going to be by the accumulation of all that he has done. Typically, what he's going to do is he's going to apply the true philosophy of shimiwaza. He's going to constrict you till your body is hypoxic and not getting enough oxygen. When you're malleable and you've been beat up against the cage for a round or two, then he will go for a submission, most likely a Jujigatami, armbar, udegarami, Kimura Americana, entangled arm, or some sort of leg lock or whatever. Dan Hooker, I believe, is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu senior belt, if he's not a black belt. I think I've heard he's a black belt, which means that he's good at guard position and submissions from guard retention, the whole ball of wax. I believe what the Gracie family did was take the third and fourth degree of judo black belt, and then apply the old jiu-jitsu philosophy of flow. And then they've taken flow to a whole other thing. What the BJJ community and just the new style jiu-jitsu community has been able to do is phenomenal. It is a world-class ground submission grappling system. And I'm a big fan of flow. When I learned how to do niwaza with judo, the first time I got my brown belt 30 years ago, that's all we did was animal movement and flow. Walk like a duck, walk like a dragon, walk like a tiger, walk like a dog, run like a tiger, attack the lapel, attack eri, eri, jime, jj, whatever, shimiwaza. And then, eri, juje, gatami, yoko, so on and so forth, whatever. Muni, gatami, yoko, gatami, yokishino, gatami. Very top control based fighting system, and that's what sambo is. It is mount versus guard. Brazilian jiu-jitsu plays out of guard. Combat sambo plays out of mount. That even their point system, sports sambo, the guy in guard gets points because it's a mount position. The guy on bottom doesn't get any points regardless if you're in guard or not, or how good your guard is. And I'm talking, there are guys that put their pelvis up here and use world class rubber guard techniques and no points. You're on a technically least dominant position, although obviously there are just almost innumerable submissions from guard position, and that's why the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community has taken it to a whole nother level. Because cool, you come in guard, I'll get my hips up, and then we'll play a submission game. Because if that the guard position is the gatekeeper to the submission grappling system. If I can keep you in guard, then my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is way better than whatever you're running. If I can pass your guard, then whether I'm Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or I am combat sambo or judo or a Muay Thai fighter, it doesn't matter. If once I get past your guard, I can do easily whatever it is I want to do, unless you're Volkanovski, who could just strike from guard. Wow. Long live the king. I will never, ever, ever, ever doubt the champ ever again, because I thought Brian Ortega was going to teach him a lesson, and the fight went how I predicted, except one thing: the bombs coming down from Volkanovski in guard. I thought Brian Ortega was going to be able to. It's a long lever. Grab it and submit him. So I thought Ortega was going to be able to pin a fist underneath the walkie and then try to go in for Jujigatami, or at least grab the Jujigatami, fake it even if he pulls out Udegarami, and then go for a sweep. That's what I would do, or at least that would be my game plan. And someone give Volkanovski a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because if you can go up against Brian Ortega and last in guard at all in an MMA match, you're a fucking black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I said it. Give it to him. He deserves it. You keep him as a brown belt, I'm going to come find you. I ain't going to go find you. I have a hard time enough trying to look like a brown belt in Kodokan Judo myself. I ain't going to go teach nobody any lessons. Unless you want to play Niwaza by my very specific rules, then all day, let's do it. Anyway, back to Islam Makhachev and Dan Hooker. So Hooker, if Hooker can throw bombs and get him with a couple of elbows, push him up against the cage, and just rain down karate-style bombs from the hip, he's got a chance. He's got a chance. But if Islam Makhachev can get in, can take him to the ground, can remain on top, can push him to the cage, and Habib his ass, then he ain't got a shot. There's just... Islam Makhachev has fought bigger guys that had great striking from the time his mama dropped him out of the womb and he took his first breath. I'm sure in Dagestan they box with newborn. I'm kidding. That is just a joke. Although now I want to see what a baby would do if I'm like, bing, 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 bing. What's up? So, inshallah, I think it's going to be Islam Makhachev. I have to take a look at Dan Hooker on the ground. Inevitably, this fight is going to go to the ground, obviously. And Islam Makhachev is going to try to retain mount position. Maybe mount, S-mount, arm bar. I don't know, Jujigatami, arm lock. If I had to call it, then that's what I would call it. I would call it, second or third round for Islam Makhachev, Udegarami, by entangled arm. Just because the Jujigatami, it's a long lever, it's a little bit more difficult. And I mean, Islam Makhachev might just put him in a figure four from guard, choke him out just to prove that he can play from guard. Because obviously, being a master of sport in combat sambo, you do have to have the equivalent of a third or fourth degree black belt in judo. That's what combat sambo is. They basically took a couple of fifth degree black belts from judo and taught Soviet wrestlers in the Caucasus Mountains uh, third, fourth, fifth degree judo, and those wrestlers added whatever. And then they took it on a road show and added some of the indigenous folk wrestling, boch. I can't remember all of them or the complete history of combat sambo. But what I do know is it's top versus bottom. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu plays from the guard on the bottom. Combat sambo plays from the top. Even in the roll sets, like I think I had mentioned. Yeah. And honestly, if it came down to it, Islam Makhachev would probably stand up. If Dan Hooker put him in his guard, he'd probably just stand up and just slip out. I mean, if you ever watch Habib and those guys pass guard, it's so fast. They usually pass guard before they're on the ground. They usually pass on the throw or the trip, or the shot. They land into a Keisagatami or Yokoshiho or some small cradle, some sort of. Anyway, 29-0, Khabib Nurmagomedov warms up and prepares for every match with Islam Makhachev. So if you're telling me that the unbeaten champ, pound for pound, greatest, Khabib Nurmagomedov, if he is preparing and the guy he's calling is Islam Makhachev, then you can write it down that it's going to take a supreme talent to beat Islam Makhachev, or somebody just got to get lucky with one. Just boop, right on the button, just scramble the brains, man. Can Dan Hooker hit Islam Makhachev with one clean elbow, one clean shot, and knock? Could Dan Hooker hit Islam Makhachev and knock him out clean? Probably. But I would also extend to you that I believe that Islam Makhachev is way smarter. So I'll have to take a look at Dan Hooker's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever his ground submission style is and see what he likes to do on the ground. Because Islam Makhachev, if he gets to somebody who can, really give him problems from like a rubber guard, they could keep it in the middle of the mat enough, long enough, and play a sweep game. I'm on top, you're on top, I'm on top, this side, that side, this side, that side. In something like that, Dan Hooker, he could get free and drop a bomb or drop an elbow from the top or the transition. But if Islam, even in guard, if Islam can keep Hooker on the bottom and not let Hooker mount, I don't see how Hooker's going to be able to get clean shots, because standing up on the cage and getting rained on is not something that Islam Makhachev is going to do. It's just not. The only way Dan Hooker is going to submit Islam Makhachev is if he's already knocked out, if he's already a little concussed, a little woozy, a little. Then you can see Dan Hooker fucking, pull something out of his bag. But again, I'll have to go take a look at Dan Hooker on the ground and see if he can use that length on the ground. But right now, just based on reputation and what I know of Islam Makhachev, like Dan Hooker isn't a better striker than Zabit Magomedsharipov, and Islam did a really easy job, not an easy job, but he did a good job against Zabit. And maybe because Dan Hooker is a bit bigger, maybe those strikes that Zabit, got in on Islam, maybe those strikes are knockout worthy from Dan Hooker. So that's something else I gotta take a look at. Can Dan Hooker strike moving back? Does he catch guys in transition on shots? Does he create transition? And what I mean by create transition is I've got 70% of an arm bar, but I wasn't planning on going for the arm bar at all. I just want you to turn enough so I can go for shimiwaza, get a hook, and take you this side, take you that side until I really get the shimiwaza, really, really sunk in. Does Dan Hooker have a shimiwaza game? If you're going to beat someone like Islam Makhachev, you're going to have to be on the ground and you're going to have to catch him, sweeping or rolling. And the best way to catch somebody who's really, really, really good sweeping or rolling is you got to catch them while they're going for something and then choke them out, or leg lock or something, because Islam Makhachev is going to play Juge Gatami Uregarami, Juge Gatami Uregarami all day long. Am I going for the armbar? Am I going for the Americana? Am I going for the choke, Shimiwaza? What's the technique I'm going to go for? And then while you're defending that, we're gonna sweep, trip, push, whatever it is. But it's going to push you towards. We're working you towards the cage, and then it's going to be the true philosophy of Shimiwaza: constriction, 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 till you're hypoxic and you can no longer breathe. And there's my opening thoughts. Hopefully I didn't repeat myself too many times in a row. There it is. Khorda. Khorda. Khorda Hafiz. Khorda Hafiz.